Before you jump ahead to the episode, we have a super quick announcement for you all. Spotify has added the ability to rate podcasts on a scale from 1 to 5 stars, and we are asking that all of you take just a few seconds to find us on Spotify and rate us 5 stars. Almost all of our listeners come from the world of Apple, so adding a rating on Spotify is a great way to help the show grow. That way we can continue releasing 2 episodes every single week. Just make sure that you have the latest version of Spotify, listen to at least 30 seconds of one episode, and then they will allow you to leave a rating. Thank you so much to all of you for listening and supporting the show. Let's get into this episode. Shazam! Hello, fellow gamers. Welcome to the Multiplayer Gaming Podcast. We are a family-friendly podcast devoted to gaming. Please remember to rate our podcast 5 stars and leave a review if your podcast app allows. And if you would like to connect with our Multiplayer Gaming Podcast community, come join us on Discord. It's completely free. There's a link in the episode description. You can come chat with us from the show and also other listeners who enjoy the show as well. And then finally, if you like what we do here and you want to help support the show financially, you can head over to multiplayersquad.com to see our Patreon page where you can pledge starting as low as $5 a month. Our show is funded by our listeners, and in order to keep the show going, we do rely on listeners like you guys to help support us. And on top of that, you do get a couple extra perks like getting early access to the episodes along with some quick take episodes as well. All right, on to introductions. I am your host, Paul, the Captain Picard of today's podcast. We're going to boldly go into this bonus round looking at the best space games of all time. And then joining me today, we have a very special guest. He loves to step over the backs of chairs. He's the Commander Riker, or the number 1 of the podcast. It's Michael Butler.
I will run with that honor. I cannot believe that you gave me number 1, which is just amazing. And by the way, short funny thing about why he steps over those chairs. Jonathan Frakes actually has a back problem. He came out with it years later that he was stepping over the chairs because he had a hard time bending over because it hurt, and that's how the Riker maneuver started. And I'll take that Riker maneuver because it's a fantastic maneuver, stepping over chairs.
Paul, you better have a good person for me, Paul, because the fact that I'm not number 1 to your Picard,
you're not number 1.
Is worrisome. But there is a correct answer.
Is Data?
Oh, of course, there's a proper answer because we are a crew of 3 today. So we've got our third host. He is the acting ensign, the youngest of the crew. Our Wesley Crusher, if you will, it's Josh.
You're such a jerk.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I thought it could be Worf, it could be Data, it could be Geordi, any of these guys, and yet you make me Wesley Crusher.
Shut up, Wesley.
Okay, yes,
Shut up, Wesley. That was the greatest.
I'll get you back for that, Paul.
We're talking about space games. Michael is a fellow Star Trek fan. If there was ever a time to have a Star Trek intro, this was going to be the week.
I am the first to die, and so I feel like Wesley Crusher would be the first to die as well.
Maybe. He did save the ship a lot, though. But I gotta say, Paul, because of that intro, I'm about to tell a grown man that I love him. I love you, Paul. That was beautiful. Thank you. I actually brought a tear to my eye.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
I love you, too.
Yeah, it's because you get to be Riker.
You're right.
Yeah. I just hope Michael's going to pull out the trombone and start playing it during the episode, just like Riker could. All right, so before we jump into today's bonus round, we do have a couple of new Patreon supporters that we want to thank. We have Much to Buku, who signed up for rare status just earlier this month on the 19th. We also had Nevo, who added legendary status to his Patreon support, which means he gets to pick a game that Josh and I have to deep dive on the show. That's one of the really cool perks of one of the Patreon tiers. And then I Am Awesome just hit a 1-year anniversary, starting to support the show back in January of 21.
That's cool.
So we wanted to throw all 3 of them a shout out. Thank you so much for your guys' support. It really does mean the world to us.
It does. Seeing the legendaries are great. I love seeing people that have been in the Discord server for a while, like Much to Buku, that have been active. And then all of a sudden, it's like you see that they pledged to the show. They're supporting the show. It's just such a cool thing to see. And like you said in the intro, we would not be here if it was not for the listeners helping to support the show. So if you like what we do and you want to throw a tip to your Witcher, that's the way to do it for sure.
Toss a coin. Toss that coin to your Witcher.
Yep. And I think we have a review that we're going to read on the show today.
I do have a review, and just to mix it up a little bit, you know what, Michael, since you're the number one now, I think it's only befitting that you step up to your responsibilities and you read this review now.
You know what? I'm going to step up. I don't know if you noticed either when he introduced everyone. He did introduce me second, and he said I have a third co-host today.
I know. I caught it all. Don't you worry. I'm going to be judging some of these rounds tonight.
What I'd like to say is actually you are number 3 on the co-host list, but number 1 in my heart. I hope you like the games that I pick.
I hate them all.
Speaking of number 1 in our hearts, though, I will go ahead and take the honor of reading this review, which comes in from Rythik, or if you use the German pronunciation, it could be Rytik. And it's a 5-star review because, well, we love 5-star reviews, and so why not? The title is Best Podcast for Gaming. And Rytik says, been listening for a year now, so I believe it's time for my review. This podcast is my top pick for anything gaming because of how in-depth and warm the conversations are. I can always look forward to hearing all the news I need, as well as getting some laughs in along the way. Keep up the great work, guys. You guys are awesome, especially that Michael Butler. That last part, I might have not. He didn't maybe say that last part.
I didn't see that in the review. That's crazy.
Yeah. We don't normally ad-lib during the reviews.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, Rythik, and thank you for the review. The guys love you as well. And I'm an honorary guy, and I definitely love you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We love reading your guys' reviews. It really does help our show get seen by more people, and so it really does help us out. So if you have, especially Apple Podcasts out there, we really do appreciate when you're able to rate the podcast and to leave a written review, and we love sharing those on the show time to time. All right, so today we're having a bonus round episode. I think these are our favorite format shows, Josh, when we get to do a draft and a tournament. These are such a blast, and so whenever we get a chance, we like to bring Michael on and do these. And so if you are new to the show, Josh, do you want to tell the people a little bit about how the draft and tournament works?
Yeah, so we love competition, and what better thing to do than to compete against your friends? But since we're a gaming podcast, we had to figure out a way to do that. And the easiest way is to just say, let's go head to head. Let's all pick a list of games that fit whatever category we're talking about. We will draft these like a football draft. So, somebody will get the first pick, somebody will get the second pick, and then somebody will get the third pick. We do it in reverse order following that. So if you had the third pick, you get to pick again, and then it goes in reverse order. And then that way it's fair. Everybody gets a fair shot at drafting the best team of games. And then we will go into a tournament style bracket where we pit these games against each other to be voted on by me on all of them. No, I'm just kidding. But we will we'll vote and to see which ones move forward in the tournament until we crown an overall winner. So they're a ton of fun. We love doing these. The listeners have loved them because you guys and gals out there are coming up with games that you would think, are your number one, or games that we forgot. And you're going, man, how could you guys not draft this game? And then we go, oh yeah, that's a great one. But they're just a lot of fun. It's a much more laid back vibe for these than like our deep dive episodes. And we just have a good time.
I can say that I really do appreciate looking in the Discord chat after these shows go on, not just because I'm part of the show, but because I was before that person, like, guys, you forgot this game. And now I'm like, I forgot that game.
Yep.
And but there's a lot of chat in there. I love it. Your listeners are great.
Yeah, they really are.
All right. So Michael, since you're the guest, we tend to let you have final say on the topics of these drafts. And you landed on space games, so I'm guessing you must be a big fan.
I am a huge fan of space games. It's, I was a Star Trek fan growing up. I was the only third grader who was using Rendezvous on a daily basis in class because I absolutely loved Star Trek. And that love of Star Trek and also Star Wars, they say you can't be fans of both, but I think that's different now. I love them both. And because of that, I just gravitate towards these games. And I typically gravitate towards ones that are more RPG-like because you all know I love my RPGs. And so that might give you a little spoiler behind the curtain on some of my picks. I'm really terrible at shooters.
So, a point of clarification here. All right, what exactly constitutes a space game? Because I'll be honest, the first thing I did is I Googled best space video games. And I was seeing things in the list that I don't know I would necessarily qualify as a space game. Like, what if the game only takes place on like a foreign planet, but you're never actually in space? Like, I don't know if that necessarily qualifies.
I would say yes. If it's extraplanetary, then I think that qualifies as space. Like, I don't think you have to be in deep space.
Uh-huh.
But I would say if it's a foreign planet, then maybe? I don't know. That's a tough one.
What do you think, Michael?
I'm going to say that when I put together my list, and I only went and Googled games later on. Like, the first thing I thought of was, I know a lot of space games. I didn't even think of games that were like, hey, you're on a different planet. Like, I thought of games where it's like, I'll give you a movie equivalent, right? So, like, if you're looking at something like Starship Troopers, the movie, which I guess it's an older one, y'all might not know it. There's a lot that takes place in space. There's space battles, but there's also a lot of land. I think if there's a good mix of it, that's fine. But if it's just literally just on a foreign planet, or it could even be like a space fantasy game because there's just the only space you see is the stars, I don't think that counts.
Okay, so
I think we have to tick it. Well, we should argue if somebody picks one.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think we might have to litigate a little bit. I think I was a little more in line with Michael. I tried to focus on my list of having games where you actually spend time in space. So, like, I was seeing on lists. Okay, so, like, what about Satisfactory?
See, that was the perfect example.
Would Satisfactory qualify as a space game? I say absolutely not.
I say yes, because there is a space needle that connects your planet to space, and you are a space explorer exploring an alien world.
Okay. So we might... That kind of opens it up pretty broad. I think we'll just have to take it on a case-by-case basis. I think Michael and I might color within the lines a little bit more than Josh on this one.
I mean, I've never pretended to follow the rules, guys.
We'll just have to see what happens. All right, so the way that this draft just so happens to turn out, the number 1 pick will go to Michael. I get to go number 2, and then Josh gets to go 3 and 4. So, Michael, you're in the hot seat, bud. What are you taking with the number 1 overall game that takes place in space?
Do you guys remember when Michael tilted on the last draft?
I sure do.
Don't tilt, Michael. It's just the biggest choice of the entire draft right here.
It is. And the funniest thing is my first pick is actually a question to you guys. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to pick the assumed 1.01? The 1.01 that I have not played, that I know will win this draft? Or do I pick my favorite game in space? It's a tough one, isn't it? And as long as I just sit here and just talk about it and get you guys to think about, is he actually going to drop the game? What's he going to do? What should I do?
I do not see a clear-cut front runner, so I have no idea what game you're even referencing.
I know what everybody thinks the front runner is, but I can tell you that I am less likely to vote for that front runner.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, then that actually helps me make my choice. Because the front runner that I thought I would maybe pick that I've never played, I'm not going to say it because one of you guys is going to pick it. I was like, wouldn't it be fun if I didn't even know anything about it and you guys just argue to win my point for me and I don't have to say a word? All right. So my pick is, it's my favorite. It is my favorite game in space. And I honestly don't think you guys have played it. And it's an excellent open world, if you could say, open universe, open galaxy game where you can literally go anywhere you want to go. You can land on a lot of different planets. You can do anything from being a space pirate to killing space pirates. You can be a merchant to, killing merchants. You can go anywhere across the galaxy. And if you find a planet that no one in this massive multiplayer game has ever discovered. Your name is on it for the rest of the time this game is live on open servers. And that game also has an outrageously good VR port, which is what puts it over the top for me. The game is Elite Dangerous. And I know that is not a popular 1.01, but it is my absolute favorite game because I can do anything I want in that game. I can can't design spaceships. I can fly spaceships that I modify and upgrade depending on how I want them. And literally, it's like every day I do something different in the game, and I can do whatever I want, and it's in space. And there you go. And it's 100% space.
I have seen you play this game. I remember seeing you cracking out on this game. I don't know what game I was playing, but every time I'd log into Steam, I would just see Michael Butler is playing Elite Dangerous. Mm-hmm. And I looked into that game many, many times because it seems like it's super cool. I like the open aspect of you can be, like you said, you can be a merchant, you can be a pirate, you can literally just haul stuff back. Mm-hmm. You know, that I know people that play this game and all they do is haul things back and forth like they're some intergalactic trucking company. I've never played it.
Well, if you do, you'll probably deep dive down the rabbit hole because, honestly, Josh, I know you and I kind of had a little teaser. We talked EverQuest a long time ago when we did the first draft that I was on with. It was a long time ago. It was 2 months ago. Right. But we were talking about EverQuest. This game is a little bit more like EverQuest where you get in it for the long haul. You're going to sit there and you're going to do some boring things, some great things, but it's very realistic when it comes to like travel and just the time it takes to do things. And I just love it. And you can fight aliens if you want to. But yeah, like you said, I did crack out. I have over 2,000 hours in the game, and I only played it for like 3 months.
Have you ever played it, Paul?
I have not. But almost every list I brought up online mentioned Elite Dangerous, but then inevitably there were multiple comments of people saying it's very slow. You might consider it to be boring. But I did land on, apparently I have to play this game because everyone talked about it. So, Michael, I feel a little bit bad because your number one pick is already a little bit of an underdog, seeing as how neither Josh nor I have even played it.
No, it's out for sure. Unless it depends on what I'm up against, I'm sure, and I can maybe talk about things that are great about it. But I would say that I will fire it up at any point if you guys want to hop in and play.
There are dozens of listeners out there that are agreeing with Michael though right now.
Dozens.
Yeah.
All right. So Michael's coming in with Elite Dangerous with the number one pick. I get the number 2 overall pick. And okay, now look, I was kind of joking earlier about not seeing a front runner. I do see a front runner, but I don't want to be too on brand. I'm not going to take it here, but I very well could. Instead, I am going to draft No Man's Sky. This is like, to me, the very first thing I thought of. Best space games. This is a game where you literally pilot your own ship. You go planet to planet. Very similar, it sounds like, to Elite Dangerous. There are infinite number of planets you can visit. The game has been improved upon so much since release. There actually is multiplayer now. A lot of the bugs and the stuff that did not work has all been fleshed out over time. No Man's Sky was one of the most pleasant surprises that I ever jumped in to play. To me, that was kind of easy as my first pick. I feel like it's a very traditional space game.
It is. It's a lot like Elite Dangerous, just not nearly as good.
Ooh, shots fired.
Well, I wouldn't know.
No Man's Sky is an amazing game. It is one of my favorite redemption stories in video games at this point. Honestly, what I want to see now is for them to just leave No Man's Sky alone and go develop another game.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we have repeatedly said, you have served your sentence. You've done your time. You're allowed out of No Man's Sky jail. Go develop something new for us. You know, I'll buy it. I like to support the studio at this point for what they've done. I would 100% support whatever they come out with, provided it's finished and not overhyped.
Now that game did have a notoriously rough start, didn't it? Like it was
horribly.
Like it promised a lot of things and underdelivered. And I feel I've heard people say, because I tried to check it out. I honestly, transparency, I haven't played it. But I did hear a lot of people say, you know, I believed the hype poorly at the beginning and was like, I'm never touching that game. And everyone's like, you need to go have a look at it now because it's actually pretty good.
It's really good now.
The irony is that Hello Games was trying to put the brakes on the hype. They were actually the ones coming out saying, don't make all these assumptions. This is what the game actually is. It was more the community that kind of ran with the rumors and false expectations.
Really?
But yeah, the game is absolutely beautiful. It works great. The last thing I'll say about it is that one of the neat mechanics, I thought, is that there are multiple alien races. And when you first talk to them, it's all just gibberish on your screen. But the more you talk to them and the more you interact with tablets in their world, you start to pick up just individual words and letters. And then pretty soon before you know it, you can start to understand the alien races. And I always thought that was really neat because you could also mimic things that they would say. And so you would hear a certain sound and you would mimic it back, and they would like shoot you a dirty look. Like, who are you to say that to me? It was such a crack up.
Well,
all right. So Josh, how do you?
This is where I'm just going to evil laugh right now, guys.
That you got this game at the third pick. Yeah, I know.
You fools! I can't believe neither one of you took Mass Effect 2 as the greatest space game ever. How did this fall to me at number 3? I'm taking Mass Effect 2. I can't believe neither one of you took it. It is hands down one of the best space games ever made. Is it my favorite game? No. But is it one of the best? Yes.
A point against Mass Effect, which I do not find myself saying
let's
often.
Hear Paul slander Mass Effect.
You never actually fly in space. Now, the in-game cutscenes do, but you don't ever like pilot in space.
There's plenty of space travel in the Normandy. You know, I may not be controlling it, but I can't believe that this happened. So thank you to both of you for handing me this victory on a silver platter.
If I drafted it, you would have just given me a hard time for
I would have.
You're
darn
about
right. My plan worked to slander you both up front.
All right, Mass Effect 2, great pick. I can't slander it. One of the all-time best games.
I get
stop.
a back-to-back on this one.
Oh, gross.
And
I know what you're picking here.
You do, huh?
I know what I'd pick here.
I don't know. I'll tell you what I'm going to pick. This one might be a little bit borderline. I don't know if it's stretching the rules a little bit, but I'm going with StarCraft 2.
Okay.
Because lots of space, lots of alien races, different environments, and you go into little space stations on some of the missions and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm assuming this qualifies. There's no naysayers.
No, I think it qualifies. I don't have an issue with StarCraft. I had it on my short list.
It's on my list too, so I can say easily, because it's funny because I was trying to think of ways we could get Mass Effect thrown out, and I kind of blanked out. I'm like, StarCraft for sure counts. Absolutely.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, because now I'm going to roll into why StarCraft 2. It could have been the 101. Absolutely one of the best, if not the best, RTSs ever made, in my opinion. This game also launched esports into the limelight, with people actually wanting to watch people play video games and seeing what's going on. The various expansions in StarCraft 2, Heart of the Swarm, Wings of Liberty, all that. I mean, absolutely I'm not even an RTS fan, and I absolutely love StarCraft 2. So when you talk about games that are in space, that are just iconic, legendary, StarCraft 2 for me is one of those.
I like StarCraft 1 more, but I love them both. They're both great.
No, I think 2 is better than 1, so I'm with Josh on that one.
Thank you, Michael. Voice of reason.
Yes.
All right, so Josh is loading up on
before.
The sequels.
Josh is loading up on sequels. Mass Effect 2 and StarCraft 2. All right. Destiny 2 is still on the table for you, Josh. Just saying.
Dude, I will say this. I saw it in a list, and it did not make any of my lists, not even my honorable mentions.
Oh, shots fired. Poor Destiny 2. All right. So with my second pick, after taking No Man's Sky in round 1, I'm taking a look at my list. I think I've got some real winners that I can take late in this draft. I don't necessarily have to reach for it. I'm going to go with a more popular game that I think might be more on your guys' radar. I'm going to go with Among Us.
I was hoping. I've got back-to-backs, and I'm like, do I need to reach for Among Us? I'm going to take Among Us, but that's a great choice.
It's like the biggest game of the last 2 years. So, I mean, I got to take it. It's definitely a clear-cut space game. You eject people into space, which is one of the best things that you get to see. I got to go with Among Us.
It's a solid pick.
I do like that pick.
I feel like it's pandering to the popularity portion a little bit, but we also had a lot of fun playing Among Us with friends.
I just like how mad my friends would get playing that game. It was so much fun to see the sweetest people, the nicest people, you know, my friends and their very nice wives who are just sweet about everything just get so mad because that game is so stressful. I might have also gotten mad a few times too, but not like, you know, it's just, I love that game.
I've called him out before on the show, but our friend Curtis could not handle losing when he was the imposter. If we ever voted him out, he would be like, oh yeah, well the imposters were me and Josh. Screw you guys. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well that game's ruined.
I know, like, dude, I don't think you know how this game works.
Yeah. So yeah, Curtis in particular, definitely would get upset in Among Us.
See, here's the beauty of this category, the space games. There are so many different ones. Among Us was not on my list at all. Yeah. And yet it's a great game that takes place in space.
I thought it was a good value pick, getting it in round 2.
I thought so too.
All right, so Michael, you get back-to-backs here.
I do, and this is hard because like after these 2 picks, I have the last pick, which is the throwaway pick. So like which one of my games do I think will fall to the last pick? And if I recall, I can't remember what it was, but I think Josh had the last pick last time we did this, and like that game actually made it pretty far. So
there are some good dark horses.
I've got to get this one out of the way because this one actually is still a contender for the winner because, ironically enough, it's also a sequel. But a sequel to a very innovative dogfighting game, which, you know, of course, the first one, you get to be the good guys. And in the sequel, you get to be the Empire. And that game is TIE Fighter, which is the best of the series. Really, now, I know that there's later TIE Fighter games that you could say, well, they were better. But TIE Fighter took what X-Wing did, and it made a better story. The graphics were much better. And it only came out like a year later. Like, it was right afterwards. But I remember sinking hours in this game in, like, what, 1994, and
94.
When I remember that game, I remember it looking great, and it was so hard. You had to have a joystick. You couldn't play with mouse and keyboard, and it broke the rules of what a space video game could do at the time. And I think the replay value, like if they were to remaster a game, well, I guess it's basically Squadrons, but you know,
it's not though. Squadrons does not capture what TIE Fighter was.
Yeah.
Have you watched any video footage of TIE Fighter lately?
It looks terrible.
It
it's awful.
looks so bad. I dialed it up earlier today because I had TIE Fighter on my list, and I could not believe like how poorly that game's graphics have aged. But in the time, I mean, 360 degrees space was like very rare in a game. So it was incredible to not only have that and to be Star Wars, and you got to be the bad guys. Like that did not happen very often where you got to be as, And they did it over and over with Star Wars, like Dark Forces 1 and 2. They let you keep coming back to play the villains, which I always thought was really neat.
Well, the interesting thing about that is you really didn't feel like a bad guy. You felt like you were really just fighting for the right side, and you were like, I'm taking these orders and I'm just going to go do it and stuff. And I love it. And I know that it hasn't aged well, which I know might hurt it or bring it down a couple rungs. But you got to remember that back in the day, you're playing on these old CRT monitors, and the blur on it, like you watch it now and there's no motion blur on these, you know, super awesome LEDs that we have and all that stuff. And so it just looks worse now. It's like playing GoldenEye on a flat screen TV. You're like, what? If you plug it into an old tube TV, it actually looks better. Yeah. And so it's just, true. I played it on an old Sony Trinitron back in the day. It's just, you know, but
that's a great pick, man. It's, it goes to show you, as much as I love beautiful games, the graphics don't make a game, because that game looked like hot garbage, but was one of the funnest games I played when I was a kid.
Yeah. It was great. All right, so I feel like I redeemed myself a little bit with that pick. I was hoping Among Us would fall, but I wouldn't have picked it above TIE Fighter. So I think, Paul, maybe there's a misstep there because TIE Fighter is just gonna cream it probably when they match up later. But but my next choice, I've got a lot of choices here to make, and I've got a lot of things on my list. This is very different from the last draft where everything I had on my list was gone by the time we got back to me. I've got a lot of choices here for the second choice. Do I pander? Do I pick something I know you guys are going to vote for? And or do I go with the nope? And the answer is yes. Well, I don't know if this counts though.
Throw it out there.
Oh, all right. Outer Wilds.
Yeah, it's a space game.
It's 100% a space game, and you stole my next pick.
Thank you,
giant butt face.
Yes, and much like I was going to do.
Have you played all of Outer Wilds?
Well, so remind me what's in that game again. Hold on.
It's the time loop game.
Okay,
there's
time loops, guys. Yeah, of course I played it. There's supernovas
every 12 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, I've played all that game. Nothing to worry about here.
Sure sounds like it.
I had to pander there for a minute because I'm like, I know.
Is this where I start quizzing Michael on various aspects of that game?
We just talked about this last week. You told me it was on a Steam sale, and I bought it because I've never played it before.
Have you played it?
No, I've never played it. I'm super excited to.
I tell you this, Outer Wilds quite possibly would have been my second pick, but I know Paul does not like it, and I wasn't sure that you had played it, and I passed it up just thinking that it would never get voted for because I didn't think either one of you either had played it or liked it. It is hands down, for people listening, Outer Wilds is one of the best space games ever made in existence. Look up the reviews for this game. Paul is crazy. This game is absolutely beloved. It's up there with Subnautica.
Also overrated.
Oh my goodness.
These games are fine. They're good.
These games are amazing. They're amazing games. So that is a great pick, Michael.
Now, and I gotta say that some of the listeners might be like, Michael just picked a game that he's never played. First of all, this is the first time that I've done this. Second of all, against these guys, sometimes you just gotta do something that might pander a little bit, because the other games I was gonna pick probably wouldn't have made it. They were just my favorite games. So
this is best space game. This is not best space game that you've played. So
sweet.
You picking one of the best space games in existence is a smart move.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well. And now I've got to wait until the very end of the draft to hope that one of my three other picks, I got a good chance. A 75% chance that's going to come back.
All right. It's back to Paul.
Back to me.
Paul.
All right. My third pick to add on to my team, I've got No Man's Sky. I've got Among Us. I'm staying true to this space theme best I can. So, I'm going to go with a pick that I kind of think is probably on neither of your radars. I really hope at least one of you have played it. I'm going to go with Super Mario Galaxy.
I have played it. It is not on my list.
And this does not bode well for me. It's one of the best Mario games, hands down. By far one of the best.
Is this the one with, let me clear, is this the one with the little planets that you run around and the different hats that you get? Or is the hats one Odyssey?
The hat is Odyssey.
That's Odyssey.
So,
this is a little planet
Mario
one.
Galaxy is, where you would be able to jump through space and go to different planets. They could all be run around full 360 degrees. And it's one of the highest rated games of all time. So I wanted to go with Super Mario Galaxy 1.
Wait, is there a Super Mario Galaxy 2?
Yeah, there's two of them.
Wow.
They both came out on the Wii, I think. Maybe two came out on the Wii U. But yeah, there's definitely two of them.
I feel very uneducated when it comes to Super Mario Galaxy.
Right? I definitely played that game and I enjoyed it. It's going to be a toss up on what it goes against, because I did enjoy it. And I saw it when I looked at Google later on and looked at the lists, and I was just like, I just don't remember it being something that I was like, I want to draft that. But it was good. It was fun. And it was innovative too, in a weird way for Mario to be in space, so good choice.
Yeah, my only real beef with that game is you could play with two players, but the second player, all they could do is aim the Wii remote and click on stars and collect them for the first player. So it wasn't really two-player. Yeah.
It was basically like, watch me play this and feel like you're participating, even though you're not really.
Yeah. It's like perfect to give your 5-year-old to play with you, but if you're like two adults, it's not going to work well for multiplayer. Yeah, all right. So I'll stick with Super Mario Galaxy. And now, Josh, you get your last two picks.
Oh, man. This is the problem with being the third pick, because my draft is over after this. I don't get to hear you guys take a couple and then go, oh, they totally forgot about this one. If I swing and I miss, it's bad. Okay. This one, I got to go with this one because I cracked on this game so hard. It was right around the time that I don't remember the year that it came out, but I feel like it was either high school for me, maybe early college. I don't know. But
Space Invaders?
No. Oh, no. Come on now. I know.
Paul,
you know what's
Paul,
funny?
Why did you do that?
Dude, you know what's funny? I was telling my wife about the upcoming show and the category, and she goes, "Oh, are you going to pick that game that's the little spaceship going back and forth?" And I'm like, Galaga? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not aging myself that much. I did play a lot of Galaga, by the way.
I was legitimately hoping Space Invaders fell to me at the last pick, the throwaway pick. I'm like, dude, Space Invaders, it started all of it.
Space Invaders sucks.
Just kidding. I'm glad that didn't happen because I remember loving that game, but I'm also really, really old.
I'm taking, this one is near and dear to my heart. It might sound like it's pandering, but it's not. I'm going with Halo 2.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, this game was the game that all of your buddies were playing. This is the best multiplayer in Halo, you know, out of the entire series, in my opinion. Infinite is a lot of fun, but it doesn't quite capture what Halo 2 had. The campaign was awesome. I think it's one of those games that when you think about space games, a lot of times you forget about Halo, but it's the epitome of taking place in space because you're on the ring. You can literally look out and see outer space out there. You're going to different areas. I mean, there's aliens, there's alien technology, there's spaceships, all that stuff. So I feel like that just fits the bill perfectly.
I feel like you just try to talk us into letting him pick that because it's mostly on land.
I'm just hyping it up for the brackets.
No, I agree.
I like how Josh's argument is you can look out and see space. Like I can do that in my front yard. I can do it through my window right now.
Cloudy. And we live in a big city, so good luck seeing space through all the lights.
I'll still allow it. Halo, any Halo game is space. Sure, why not?
This is where I'm really torn. I have like 3 picks right here that easily are all tied, in my opinion. One of them is probably one of my favorite games to play, but the other one I think is probably one of the best space games ever made. Because it's so unique, it defined an entire genre, and I'm picking that one. I'm going with Dead Space.
Okay, the first Dead Space.
That's a good choice
because this completely changed the horror genre, the horror sci-fi. It was revolutionary when it came out. Paul, we've talked about Dead Space I don't know how many times on this podcast, and for a game that's that old to still be so relevant and current, you know what I mean? Like Dead Space has aged well. It did so many things just perfectly that I think it stands the test of time. And it's just it's a scary game, man.
It's just such a shame that the series devolved into what it did.
I didn't pick the series, by the way.
Yeah, I know. You picked the first one, which is the best one for sure. Yeah, it's such a great game. It's fantastic. We've talked about it a lot, but yeah, the sound design, the lack of UI. I remember that being one of the earliest games where you did not have an HP meter and all these things. You just simply had a couple of notches like on his suit on the back of his neck, and that showed his health. It was very immersive. Great pick.
I feel like almost every pick in this draft, I've been like, that's a great pick. Like, that's a great pick, you know, whereas Super Mario Galaxy's on here, but I mean, other than that, like, it's a lot of great picks.
You know what? Let's do a quick search. Metacritic.
Oh no.
I love this is happening right now.
Mario Galaxy.
Wait, can we guess?
97 on Metacritic.
Oh, that's really high.
User score is a 9.1. So I'm going to say you guys are in the minority here. It's one of the most beloved games.
Probably higher than Elite Dangerous, unfortunately, which is a way better game.
All right.
They're very different.
So, Josh, your team rounds out with Mass Effect 2, StarCraft 2, Halo 2, and Dead Space 1. That's your team.
I'm sensing a lot of 2s in there.
Well, he wasn't number 1 because I'm number 1, so he had to go with the number 2s.
That's right.
It's true.
All right. Oh, man. Last pick for me. This is hard. There are so many good space games I could pick here. Even just the other day, Michael and I were talking about Descent, which is a very old space game.
Descent is, yes.
I was thinking about that. I'm thinking about Star Fox 64.
I thought about that too. But
so many good ones.
I still have a pick left though, and he can just keep listing all these games, and I'll just pick one of those.
I'm gonna go with Descent 1, and Descent for me was one of the very first multiplayer games I ever played. This was on direct dial-up, so you would call your buddy, your sister would pick up the phone in the middle of the match and it would start to glitch and you'd start screaming, hang up the phone, I'm on the modem right now. But Descent was an incredible game because, like TIE Fighter, it was a full 360-degree environment, and the idea of the game was very unique. I've never seen a game quite like Descent, where you flew your ship into an enemy base. You would have to fight AI-controlled bots, and then you would have to go through the maze of the ship to find the reactor, blow up the reactor, and then you would have a 1-minute countdown to escape the ship. And if you were still in the ship at the end of the timer, the whole thing blew up and you failed the mission. And there were dozens upon dozens of ships that were designed for it. The single player content was immense. The multiplayer content was even more fun because you and your buddy would hop in and race each other. But sometimes if you found the reactor first, you would hide and try to ambush your buddy. That way you could kill him and then shoot the reactor. I had so much fun playing Descent growing up. I've got to go with that as the nostalgic pick.
There is a million people out there that have no idea what you're talking about, and yet Descent was incredible. I know I played it. I know Michael played it. The fact that Paul played, like everybody that is above probably the age of 28 has played this game. And at the time, it was revolutionary. The whole getting out, like doing your mission, but then having 1 minute to escape and failing miserably sometimes. It was not easy to escape. Yes. Yeah. It was not easy. It was such a heart-pounding, adrenaline-running experience. It's hard to describe to people, but Descent was amazing.
I just remember what would happen when you came across a new robot and you hadn't seen it before and it was shooting something completely different at you, and it was like your hands would get sweaty because you're in there and you're trying to escape and you don't know what next thing he's going to throw at you, and he's right in front of the reactor you got to blow up, and it was terrifying. That game, that was the first game that I played where really like I would have to walk away for a minute and take a deep breath because like my heart started pounding, and it was beautiful and incredible.
Dude, nothing was funnier than blowing the reactor, hightailing it as best as you could, getting lost, and then you round a corner and see the blown up reactor again. So it's like you made your way in a giant circle.
Yep.
And it was like, crap. You just immediately knew you were dead.
Or how many times were you trying to fly out and you see the tunnel, because it's always a big long tunnel, and you're flying and you catch the edge and you skip off and you're like, get back in there, I have to go. And it's just, it was great. You know, there's actually, I was talking to Paul about this the other day. There's a VR game that's almost the exact same game as Descent. It's called Overload. And
really?
I bought it on a Steam sale for like $5. It's now like $30. It is probably my favorite game to throw a VR headset on and play because it literally is Descent.
Ooh.
In VR. Could you imagine that VR?
Overload is what it's called? I'll have to check that out.
It's the reviews aren't great for it. I think it's more for people like us that loved Descent.
Yeah,
because
a little bit of nostalgia.
It's exactly that game. So
yeah, I feel like Descent's one of those games that most of our listeners never played, but the ones who did absolutely agree it belongs on a short list of space games.
Agreed.
All right, so that rounds out my team. I've got No Man's Sky, Among Us, Super Mario Galaxy, and Descent. Michael, you get your last pick. It's about time. It's been a while.
It has been a little while, and I've never had the last pick, so I've never had a chance to give my honorable mentions before I actually make my pick.
Ooh.
Which could be fun. So looking at it, there's, man, so it's tough. I'm actually going to list like 3 games, and then I'm going to pick one of them because that's how I want to do it. I thought that Kerbal Space Program is hilarious and ridiculous, and that's a space game, right? Because you're literally just trying to get to outer space. And I thought that was amazing. Obviously, Space Invaders was on the list, but y'all wouldn't have voted for it, so I'm glad that Paul spoiled that because that would have been a disaster. Outer Worlds was also a game that I liked because it's literally Fallout New Vegas, the same producers. It's by Obsidian, but it's more of a space western. But the game that I'm actually picking is I'm picking a game that is just so much fun to play with your friends. It's a VR game, and as a Star Trek fan, when you close this out, you've got to say Star Trek Bridge Crew because I've never seen a game do that before.
So
you each have your own role. Like the captain has to call out orders, the engineer has to transfer power and do all these things, the tactical officer, the navigator. And it was just, as a Star Trek fan, in a game like that where we're literally like trying to work together to solve this mission, whether it be Kobayashi Maru or anything like that, that game was innovative. And the fact that it was cross-platform, the first time I played it with a friend on a PlayStation, and I was playing it through Steam VR. And that blew my mind that we could actually do that. And so that's what I'm going to round out my draft with, is one of the best just overall cooperative VR games that I've ever played. And the graphics were great too.
I wasn't so sure a Star Trek game would get drafted, but I did also have on my list on top of that Star Trek Armada, which was the Star Trek RTS. Mm-hmm. So you could like pick the Borg and build your Borg cubes and take them out and fight. Yeah, I mean, there's so many possible honorable mentions. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic, Deep Rock Galactic.
I almost
had that on
Alien
my list.
Isolation. My personal favorite Star Wars game was Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and that one was available. Gears of War, I think you could argue, if Halo counts.
Because Gears of War was Earth.
Yeah, and they
San
don't actually
Jacinto
go
was
out
in
into
South
space.
America, I thought, wasn't it?
It's not Earth.
No, it's Earth.
It's Earth?
No, it's not.
Are you sure?
What?
Yeah, it's not Earth.
Why are we defending that planet then?
All right.
No, because they came from underneath. Because they came from underneath.
Yeah,
they came from
lived
inside
under the crust.
Earth's
I'm pretty
core.
sure it's Earth.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
inside the crust. Yeah.
I will do some research
It's a
while
stuffed
we
crust.
start round one.
Stuffed crust Earth.
By the way, the last Star Trek game that I really did you say stuffed crust? Now I'm hungry. No, but honestly, I almost picked Star Trek Online, but I knew you guys probably never played it because I loved the fact that you could do more Star Trek stuff. So it's
The Gears of War series takes place on Sarah, a fictional Earth-like planet. So there you go.
Sarah. So instead of Terra, it's Sarah, right? It's like
Sure,
there's not
it's
a copyright
Earth-like,
on Earth. Just
not
call it
Earth.
Earth.
That's cool. You guys can admit when you're wrong. It's all right.
I
All right,
admit
so-
nothing.
So Michael's team, he's got Elite Dangerous, Star Wars TIE Fighter, Outer Wilds, and Star Trek Bridge Crew. All right. So at this point, now that we have drafted our...
Wait a
What?
minute. Do you have any honorable mentions, Paul?
Oh, well, didn't I just name like seven of them?
You named Gears of War, but then we got into the debate about whether that qualifies.
That's true.
Sure. So I was saying Knights of the Old Republic,
Oh,
Deep
yeah.
Rock
Oh, that's
Galactic,
right. You did. Okay.
Alien Isolation, Rogue Squadron, Gears of War, SteamWorld Heist. You get to play as robot pirates. I don't think either of you have played it, but that's a great one. Metroid Prime, I never
Ooh.
played.
I thought
a
about
good
that
one.
one.
Yeah,
a good one.
and Chorus, which I really enjoyed the demo and never bought the game.
I know.
But I really liked
We
it.
talked about that. A couple
Yeah.
for me. Jedi Fallen Order. Does you do hop through different planets and stuff like that? And that game's amazing.
That game was really impressive, actually. I thought that. Oh,
I still say it
that's
was
the
one
one
of
with
the
the
most-
ending, right? And we don't spoil the
Yes.
ending on that one.
Yeah, we're not spoiling the ending on that one.
The whole game was pretty dang good, but then the ending, I was like, that's one of the best Star Wars games ever.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. I think it's one of the most underrated games to this date.
Agreed.
So Borderlands 2, does that qualify as a space game? You go to different planets.
I passed on it because I didn't think so.
I would-
That one was
I would
stretching
say
a little
no.
bit. And then FTL. I don't know if you guys have ever played FTL, roguelite space game. Very, very highly rated, which is super good. There's an old one for those old gamers, Masters of Orion. I don't know if you
Can't
guys
say
ever
I've heard
played
of it.
that. One of the very original space strategy type games. Pick your different races, research technology branches, that kind of thing. Think Civilization,
Interesting.
but way, way better. And then Star Control 2. I linked you guys the remake of Star Control. Star Control 2, one of the best space games ever made, in my opinion. The problem is it's old.
Oh, yeah.
But the remake, for the older listeners out there that know how awesome my takes are, check out the remake Star Control Origins. It's very good.
Is the remake good? Like the remake's
is
actually
really good. Yeah,
is it
it's-
still faithful to the original?
It is faithful to the original. It's not as good as Star Control 2, but it captures a lot of the magic that game had in a very acceptable way.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, I think more than any other draft we've done, this one probably has the longest list of honorable mentions. I mean, so many great space games. It was really wide open. So now we get to match all of these games 1v1 until we're left with just one game standing as the overall winner. So let's start with round one, match one. Elite Dangerous versus Descent.
For real? Like for real? This is
For real,
the
for
first,
real.
For real?
This is your round one
goodness,
pick
they're my-
against my last round pick. Yeah,
They're
that's
like the two best. So here's the worst part is what do you do here? Because Elite Dangerous is going to be on so many lists. It's an incredible game. You can do a lot more than Descent, yet all three of us have played Descent and love it.
I was going to
well,
say.
you give it to Descent. That's what you do.
There's the one
No,
game
you
that
give
we've
it to
all
Elite Dangerous
played.
because it's way better.
I'll say I'm gonna
No, it can't be way better.
in the effort of saving a little bit of time here. While I've never played Elite Dangerous, I have been tempted many times. I have watched gameplay videos. I've watched here's why you should play this game videos. I know it's an absolutely incredible game. I know that it's not for everybody. The one overwhelming complaint that I see is it just takes forever to get anywhere. So it's like you're going to spend 10 minutes like flying through deep space to try to get from one point A to point B. I don't know if they fix that or not. I'm giving it to Elite Dangerous because it's a game that I still have a lot of interest in playing. Descent was amazing at the time, but I think if you tried to play Descent right now, you would be... It'd be like going back to like playing Frogger or something. It's just not going to hold up.
That's true, and I can't say anything about that because I have TIE Fighter on the list. But I will say that later on in the game, you do get something that makes travel faster. It wasn't something they fixed. It's just the way the gameplay gets as you get better. So 2 versus 1. Let's move on.
We can move on. I will call shenanigans. We have never put through a game that we have not played. But I will say, if Josh is going to start judging things on how they play today, your most recent game is Mass Effect 2, which is like a good 12 years old.
Legendary
you got
edition.
Some old uns in
Legendary edition. Hello.
All right. We will put Elite Dangerous through as the winner. Round 1, match 2, No Man's Sky versus Dead Space.
Ooh.
2 heavy hitters.
Ooh, how is this the first round?
Because
really Dead Space got drafted in round 4. It's a 4th seed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think the trouble here is that Michael has not played No Man's Sky. Have you played Dead Space?
I have not, but I want to play No Man's Sky, and I don't really think that I need to play Dead Space.
I'll concede this to No Man's Sky, to be honest with you. Dead Space is a little bit older. It's not going to be for everybody. It was revolutionary when it came out, and it's held up to that a lot. But No Man's Sky, for the category that we're debating, I think is a better space game.
Yeah, it ticks every box that you would possibly think of with space. Like, space ship combat.
Yeah.
Flying between galaxies, flying between planets.
Capital ships,
all that kind of stuff.
Space stations.
Alien races.
Planets, alien races, discoveries, artifacts, base building. I mean, you name it, it's in No Man's Sky. I'll just concede this one. Dead Space is an amazing game, but No Man's Sky is going to win that.
And I heard that in No Man's Sky, if you're really, 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 really lucky, you might actually, it's a multiplayer, you might run into somebody.
No, they fixed that, actually.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah,
they have
where you can...
Yeah. It's true multiplayer now, where you can go out on missions with other people.
And start together and play together and all that stuff, too. Yep. That game has come light years.
I want to honestly try it now just to see if I like Elite Dangerous.
You can play it in VR, better. By the way. You can play the entire game in VR.
Oh, man, that's amazing. Yeah, that's okay. I got to try it.
All right, round 1, match 3, Mass Effect 2 versus Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Okay, so I get it.
I've already pasted the winner, but go ahead, Michael. What were we going to say?
It's Mass Effect 2, but Star Trek Bridge Crew is amazing, and if y'all have VR and you have friends that want to pick up a game that's relatively cheap now at this point and do something truly innovative, don't count this one out. But yeah, it's Mass Effect 2.
I will say I don't think I've ever giggled in a video game like I have playing Star Trek Bridge Crew. Like when you start looking around at your teammates and the arms, you can see the little arms doing all this stuff, and
the mouths talk when you're talking to your friend.
Yes,
the mouth, like how do they even do that?
I don't know, but it's hilarious
as it's coming out of your mouth. It's
great.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that was a fun game. It did age fairly quickly. Like once you do a few missions, it's kind of like, well, I'm just pushing this button and turning this dial kind of thing. But it's a very fun VR game with friends.
Well, later on, they made it really hard, and they put out the original Enterprise, and none of the stuff was labeled, so you had to basically just try to figure it out.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of like that more. That's funny.
Yeah, so...
Oh, how funny. Yeah, I actually never played Bridge Crew. I watched a lot of videos online and streamers, but by the time I got my VR, everyone else was already done with that one.
I'm going to gift it to you in your Steam library. We're going to fire it up next week. Just for like one night, we got to do it.
Just to goof around in it.
Yep.
All right. Round 1, match 4, StarCraft 2 versus Super Mario Galaxy.
StarCraft 2.
I know
another
this is
heavy
an
hitter for
for
round 1.
It is.
Honestly, this should be a close call. I know I'm not going to win this one, but it should be very close. StarCraft 2 is great,
close.
But so is Mario Galaxy.
Mario Galaxy, I just don't remember a lot of it. I think I didn't play. I think my wife played that one mostly. I think this is when I was off doing PS4 or PC, something, I don't know what. Tell me a big game that came out around that time, and I'll tell you why I wasn't playing Super Mario Galaxy. To
probably
be honest.
EverQuest.
Yeah, was that the same? That's not the same.
No, it was later, but you were probably playing EverQuest for years anyways. World of Warcraft would have been around that time.
Yeah, I didn't get into that much. No. But I mean, the Super Mario games are incredible. I think they're amazing. They're a ton of fun, but I feel like StarCraft 2 is just legendary. It defined an entire genre. It perfected a genre. Its impact on the gaming industry, I think, can't be overstated.
Yeah, I think ultimately I agree. Super Mario Galaxy was a lot of fun. It really was. But I remember going back to StarCraft 2 in between almost every game that I was playing. Like, what am I? Yeah, I want to play StarCraft 2. It's been a few weeks. You know, like the game just was, it was incredible. It was iconic. And it like you said, a lot of those RTS games now, it's like they look at StarCraft 2 as perhaps the best one because probably was.
Yeah,
so.
I think it still is to this day, to be honest. Like, I don't play the genre very much anymore, but if you put 5 games in front of me and StarCraft 2 is one of those, and I played them all, I have a feeling I would still default to StarCraft 2 as the funnest of the bunch.
Well, just as a death cry here as Super Mario Galaxy gets murdered, it did sell 13 million units compared to 5 million for StarCraft, and while Mario Galaxy is a 97 by critics and a 9.1 by users, StarCraft 2 is a 93 by critics and an 8.3 from users. So
interesting.
That's fine.
People don't like difficult games as much. You know, they require a lot more thought and effort.
Sure, why not?
This is the greatest counterpoint I've ever heard of why this game didn't sell as well, is because, like, well, it's hard.
Yeah.
You have to think about it.
All right, StarCraft 2 makes it through. Now, round 1, match 5, we have Among Us versus Outer Wilds.
It's a tough one.
Oh, Paul, this is just a bad luck of the draw for you. This draft's not going well for Paul.
It's a tough one because
it's not tough at all.
It's not tough at all.
It's
exactly.
not tough at all.
Wow. Wait, so am I the decider on this one? But no, because I picked Outer Wilds.
You picked Outer Wilds.
That's right.
I'm the decider, which I feel bad for Paul, but I'm picking Outer Wilds hands down.
Which is fine. I get why people love Outer Wilds. It's just a boring story and boring gameplay.
No,
Other than that, it's awesome.
You did not get far enough in that game, man.
About half of your listeners.
It's like The Witcher 3, Paul. How many times did you get 6 hours into The Witcher 3 and then go, I don't understand what the hype is about this game? And then you finally gutted through it and you went, okay, you're right. This game's amazing. Outer Wilds is exactly like that, dude. 100%.
Absolutely not.
Look at, dude, I Googled because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing some like space game that was incredible. So I was on a Reddit thread where people were talking about space games, and the overwhelming majority of comments were Outer Wilds is one of the best video games I have ever played. It's one of the best experiences that you can have in a video game. The sense of exploration and everything that's going on is incredible.
What it comes down to is, Josh, you do not like casual games. And I have drafted a lot of casual games. So they're getting murdered. Mario Galaxy is honestly like a lot of people's number one favorite game of all time. Among Us is so popular.
Among Us is great. Do you have any desire to play Among Us anymore?
Yes, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I love Among Us.
I'll play it with you.
I mean, if my friends were playing, I would play, but I do not ever go like, man, I miss playing Among Us right now.
Yeah, but seriously though, I played a lot of Outer Wilds, plenty to know I do not like that game. I found everything about it to be designed almost the exact opposite of what I would do. The only thing I did like was when you would get sucked into a black hole. I thought that was kind of neat, but all right, that's fine. Outer Wilds is going to win. I'm not bitter. And then we have our last matchup in round 1. We have Star Wars TIE Fighter versus Halo 2.
Ooh,
that's kind of a funky matchup.
Wow, that's weird. Yeah. And I don't even know if it was
games.
Right. I don't even know if it was called Star Wars TIE Fighter. I think it's just TIE Fighter.
It was just TIE Fighter.
I don't know why it's bugging me that he says Star Wars, and I'm like, no,
I still remember the box art with the TIE Fighter kind of crooked on the front. Yeah, I do. I remember it, man.
This is a hard one. Like one is like a genuine space combat. There's no land. It's a space game. You know what I mean? And then one is a game that takes place in space and is a fun shooter. They both require a lot of hand-eye control because they're both essentially shooters. Because really, a game like TIE Fighter, a fighting, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for?
Dogfighting.
A dogfighting game really is still like it's just a space shooter, but this is tough. But I personally definitely go Star Wars TIE Fighter, both for the nostalgia, what it did for the genre, and also I hate shooters, so because I'm terrible at them. Halo 2 was that game I told you about when I never made it out of the bunker. Remember that? Yep.
That's true. That's true. We know that Michael does not like shooters. I absolutely adore both of these games, to be honest. This is where this gets dicey because I have fonder memories of playing TIE Fighter. Believe it or not, when I think back of like being younger and the video games that I was playing, TIE Fighter, I think, stands out in my memory more. Halo 2 was just more fun in that social with friends aspect of everybody sitting around on a couch, having the LAN parties. You know, the multiplayer, it was incredible multiplayer, probably the best FPS multiplayer since GoldenEye, in my opinion. And it's hard to not pick Halo 2 when you're talking about best space games because it's such an iconic series.
I'm
and Paul, I know you've played both of these. See, this is why I like that Paul's the judge on this one because I know he's actually played both of them.
I have, and I love them both. They're both great games. I think the argument for TIE Fighter is that it is a more true space game in how I would define a space game, but I think Halo 2 is a better game.
Yeah.
So it's like, which one is going to outweigh the other?
It's tough. For the record, I have played both of these games. I just played the one for about 20 minutes and said I'd never play a shooter with my friends again. So
I have to give it to Halo 2 because I definitely sank way more hours into Halo. Halo 2, I believe, was the first one where they added the Banshee, and the multiplayer was so incredibly fun in the day and age. It was right at the peak of like high school Paul getting LAN parties together. As much as I love TIE Fighter, Halo just provided more hours, more overall fun. So I'm going to give it to Halo.
You know what's funny is on this now, I kind of wish I could go back and Halo 2 wasn't super aged compared to the shooters now, because I feel like it was a simpler, more fun time to play, just like a LAN party like that. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of the shooters now are just so complicated that now I really can't get into the genre because there's just so much going on all the time. But you're right, though. A lot of my friends, I would sit on the couch and just watch them play because I hated it. But it was really like the experience of I'm going to bring my Xbox over. We're getting 8 people in here, or however. Yeah, it was amazing.
All right. So now we are going into round 2. We have narrowed the list down to 6. Some of us have 1 game remaining. Some of us have 4. But the remaining games are Dangerous. I'm sorry, I keep saying that first. Elite Dangerous, Outer Wilds, No Man's Sky, StarCraft 2, Mass Effect 2, and Halo 2. So a lot of sequels. All right, round 2, match 1, Elite Dangerous versus Outer Wilds. This is one game I've never played and one game that I actively dislike, so I do not know what to vote for.
Oh, man. I mean, I've never played Elite Dangerous. I want to, but I have played Outer Wilds and the DLC for Outer Wilds, which is almost as good as the original game.
This is also ironic because I have not played one of these games, and it's the game. I picked them both, but it's the one that you guys have played.
I mean, if you actively dislike a game, Paul, then I mean, you have to vote with. You might actually enjoy Elite Dangerous, whereas you don't like Outer Wilds. For the sanctity of this podcast, I am just going to put it on record that Outer Wilds is an amazing space game. Elite Dangerous probably is too. They're both actually at the top of most lists that people have put together. So I don't think we can necessarily get this wrong. Give it to Elite Dangerous. You can't in good conscience vote for Outer Wilds.
This is really funny, though.
You are
really
correct,
hilarious.
but I will say having a game in the finals that 2 of us have not played is kind of bananas.
That's true,
that
too.
is bananas, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
But it's the 1.01, though, because it's that good. And also, you guys don't have any counter arguments about why it's not that good.
That is very true. It's very hard for me to make any arguments against it. All right, next matchup.
Wait, what did you pick?
We said Elite Dangerous was going
Oh, you did
through.
pick that?
Yeah,
okay, I didn't
whatever.
hear that part. I know.
Sorry,
That's
I thought
that's
you.
the way I feel. I was still gushing
conceded.
over Outer
You
Wilds.
conceded the race.
No, I didn't concede, but I just told you to make the choice, I guess.
I didn't care. They're both my picks, so I didn't care which one went through.
True.
Neither one of them's making it past this next round anyways.
All right, round 2, match 2. No Man's Sky versus StarCraft 2.
Dang. That's a juggernaut matchup right there.
It's a big boy match.
Both of these games belong in the finals. I'll say that. I think with the way this is shaping up, someone's getting robbed here in this match.
I feel like, because this is only round 2?
Yeah, but there's only the round. Yeah.
This is round 2. You're right. This seems like this would be like a final matchup. No
Man's Sky tackles a lot more. It's more broad, whereas StarCraft 2 is only specifically an RTS.
That's true. What StarCraft 2 does, it does insanely well. No Man's Sky is a little bit more of a jack of all trades. You've played both of these, Paul. I know Michael has not. I want, not just because it's my pick, but I think I would lean StarCraft 2 just because of how incredible the game is. That's not to say that No Man's Sky is not, but I feel like No Man's Sky is jack of all trades, master of none, whereas StarCraft 2 is master of RTS genre as a whole.
See, I would say No Man's Sky is a master of exploration. I don't know that any game explores better than No Man's Sky, but the actual combat itself certainly takes a back seat, things of that nature. Michael, do you care to weigh in on this debate?
Here's the tough part about this one is that if No Man's Sky is like Elite Dangerous, I would pick that over StarCraft 2 hands down because I love exploration. I love going out and doing those things. The combat piece, I know Elite Dangerous probably has better combat than No Man's Sky, and I know we're not putting that in there, but I'm kind of trying to compare them right now and making the pick on you're right, StarCraft 2, it is the best of what it is, and and No Man's Sky is just you can do whatever you want, and that's what intrigues me, and that's what I want to do. So I want to lean towards No Man's Sky, but I feel like this is a weird one because I feel like if I just pick StarCraft 2 because I've never played No Man's Sky, then Paul gets robbed because of my ineptitude on not playing a video game that everyone else has played.
Here's the other thing. No Man's Sky, I believe there are something like 17 septillion planets that you can go visit. StarCraft 2, I think, has just one planet. Just saying.
I'm going to let you make this call, Paul. Even though you have a horse in this race, I don't think that either one is wrong necessarily. And I'm going to have some games in the finals anyway. I'm not conceding. I'm just saying I'm going to let you pick. You have played both of these games. I have said I think that StarCraft 2 is the better ambassador for the game that it is. I mean, name an RTS that's better than StarCraft 2.
Warcraft 3, Command & Conquer Red Alert.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
You think Warcraft 3 is better than dang. I mean,
Warcraft 3 is the best
they're
RTS
pretty
of
close.
all time.
All right.
Warcraft 3 is chef's kiss. It's the pinnacle of RTS for me.
It was pretty good.
That's not to take away from StarCraft. I played hundreds of hours of StarCraft 1 and 2. I mean, they're both fantastic.
How many hours of No Man's Sky have you played?
Way fewer than that.
Yeah.
20?
Exactly.
20 in No Man's Sky?
Exactly.
But that's because this is back in the day when I had no money and you had to play StarCraft for the whole year because
that's the only game you got that year.
$8 a month allowance.
Yep.
Yeah, I personally, I think No Man's Sky is a truer space game.
It's a better space game.
Personally, I would rather see No Man's Sky continue on.
I'll say this. I think StarCraft is a better, more perfect video game for what it is, if you like that genre. Now, obviously, if you don't like RTS, then it's junky. But I think for this category, No Man's Sky is a better space game.
All right. So we'll give it to No Man's Sky. And now we've got a matchup of Josh versus Josh.
Ooh.
We've got Mass Effect 2 versus Halo 2.
Oh. Why do I have to choose between my children?
Well, you don't need to because it's clearly Mass Effect.
Yeah, it's Mass Effect 2.
It is.
As much as I love Halo 2, yeah, I mean, Mass Effect 2, I've been on record. It might, for me, win just best game, full stop, of all time. Mass Effect 2 might take it for me, so I gotta go for that one.
All right. I feel like Mass Effect 2 is like one of the few games that I wish I would have played back when it was relevant and playable.
It's still relevant.
Now but can you really play it now with graphics?
The Legendary Edition is really good, and the graphics hold up very well.
Okay.
There's also a very active mod community, so you've always been able to download updated textures and stuff for the old Mass Effects. So honestly, you didn't even really need the Legendary Edition, but it still plays great.
You just made my entire world because I love modding games to make them look better, and if the only reason I was thinking about not playing this game was because it might not look as good, I gotta play it.
Oh yeah. Lots and lots of quality of life mods and texture mods. All right, so we all agree Mass Effect 2 is the winner of that match?
Yep.
All right, so not exactly a surprise, but everybody from round 1 has survived as we've now narrowed it down to 3 games. This is always a little goofy because we've got a 12-team bracket. It always ends up leading down to 3 finalists. We have Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky, and Mass Effect 2. So we're just going to match them all up against one another and see if one game wins a majority of the matchups. So first up, we have Elite Dangerous versus No Man's Sky, which from what I understand are very similar games.
I've only played one of these games, so I can only vote my conscience on one of them.
I've only played one of these games, so I can only vote my conscience on.
And Paul has only played one of these games, so I think by default is No Man's Sky going to win just because 2 out of the 3 of us have played that one?
Probably makes sense.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like if I was shaky on No Man's Sky, then maybe there would be an argument, but I think No Man's Sky is like a 10 out of 10 space game, so I don't know.
Here's what has to happen from here is we each have to play the game we haven't played between these two and then compare them, because like I have to know now which one actually would have won, because I think that Paul, you don't like Paul likes more casual games a lot of times. I think you'll hate Elite, and I think Josh will love it.
I feel like I would like Elite Dangerous more than No Man's Sky, to be honest.
I think you would.
I don't care about base building that much. I don't care about a lot of I think it's neat, like the alien language I feel like No Man's Sky is very distracted in a lot of ways. And I feel like Elite Dangerous, because there is that I can play how I want to play, even though you can do that in No Man's Sky. I just mean like, I think has a little bit more focus.
And you can literally in that game,
I can be a pirate, which is exactly what I would want to be. I hear that's not very successful to do in Elite Dangerous.
It's not super successful, but it really depends on like if you want to go out there somewhere, you know. But one of the things about it is when you talk about No Man's Sky with the 17 trillion worlds or whatever it is, Elite has the same thing. You can literally just, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to fly in that direction until the end of time and name every planet on the way out. You know what I mean? Which is kind of cool, But yeah, no, I guess because the rule of it, there's no rule after this, but I think that if I were a listener, I'd be like 2-1 because 2 people have played that one. So No Man's Sky.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Elite Dangerous, we're sorry. We just haven't played it.
I am.
But you know, what somebody could do is they could become a legendary supporter and then make us play Elite Dangerous.
Oh, that is
wrong. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Michael's pulling out his visa.
Literally.
If you were curious to know, Elite Dangerous has 20,000 planets. No Man's Sky has 18 quintillion planets, which, if you were curious to know, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 commas.
I don't see much of a difference.
Yeah.
Honestly, once you hit 5,000, it doesn't matter, right? At that point. All right, so I think Elite Dangerous very well could be the best one, but I don't see how we could ever award it the win when only one of us has played it. So No Man's Sky will give it to that one.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. What is my Patreon login?
All right, second matchup of the finals: Elite Dangerous versus Mass Effect 2.
Mass Effect 2. That one's easy.
Yeah, Michael, you're just running into my favorite game. The only thing I said about this draft to Josh was I'm not going to take Mass Effect 2 because I'm just curious to see where you guys would take it, and I'm not just going to draft Mass Effect for every draft because I want to. But I'm going to vote for it. So I got to go Mass Effect 2.
Right before this podcast, I called a friend of mine and I said, what do? I said, I'm doing this podcast. We're drafting best space games. I know the guys. Mass Effect 2 is going to win everything. I've never played it. Do I do that? Do I pick Mass Effect 2 with the 1.01? Or do I pick my favorite space game, Elite Dangerous? And you guys totally talked me out of it because I left that call saying, I'm picking Mass Effect 2. I'm winning the draft. And here I am now again on my third episode with you guys not winning any drafts because I didn't tilt this time, though, and I'm still not.
I did try to pressure you guys and say that I would not vote for your Mass Effect 2 picks, and my ploy paid off handsomely.
Oh man, I told it did
also,
too. Like,
I'm never the imposter in Among Us either.
Right. I still think that there's an argument to be made that Elite Dangerous is a better space game because Mass Effect 2 is a very good action shooter third person RPG that just happens to be set in space. So I still vote for Mass Effect 2, but if I had played Elite Dangerous, there's a chance I might actually say it's niche enough that it would deserve that title. But Mass Effect 2 is going to win that matchup.
I will say, though, that when you do play Elite Dangerous, put your VR headset on because it's one of the best VR ports on the planet. It's beautiful.
I'll definitely look it up, and if it's cheap, I'll pick it up. All right.
Well, you're going to have to because I'm still working on my Patreon right now.
The last matchup, so this will now determine the winner because Elite Dangerous lost both of its matchups. So we now have No Man's Sky versus Mass Effect 2 in the finals.
I mean, I've played a lot of both of these games. I've played No Man's Sky 4 or 5 different times with various people. I've played Mass Effect 2 from start to finish. I think it's got to be Mass Effect 2. And as much as I hate that we always gush on the Mass Effect series, there is a reason for that. That is not bias. It is just it's one of the best received series in gaming history. It does everything that you could want in a game. The only argument I feel like you could make is that it's not 100% in space, kind of like you said.
Where the first one is.
Place. Right. It takes place in the Citadel and the planets and that yada yada. And it's like, are you really out in space a lot? And it's like, no, but the whole setting is in space. Yeah. And so I feel like that argument would fall a little flat because I don't think it applies as much as it would with like Satisfactory or Halo 2 or some of these other games we've talked about, to where it's like, yes, technically it's in space, but is it really a space game?
So I can say, as a person who has no horse in this race and who has played neither game and wouldn't care, as a listener primarily, because I guessed, and it's why it's kind of cool coming down between you guys, and I kind of get to put this hat on for a second. I have heard you guys talk about Mass Effect 2 a lot more than I've heard you talk about No Man's Sky.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just,
and I think that's just the winner, I think.
And the thing is, we try to be conscious of the fact that it's like, yes, we talk about Mass Effect a lot. We talk about Dragon Age. I talk about The Witcher and God of War and things like that. And it's like, because these games are the pinnacle of video games in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it's the best game ever made. I'm just saying that they're a cut above a lot of other video games, which is why we talk about it. And as your friend, Michael, you should play Mass Effect. It's an incredible series, but only after you finish Divinity Original Sin 2, which I saw you starting up the other day.
I did. I got on the home screen. I was ready to play it. And then I got really tired because I'm like, I don't know which one of these 19 choices I pick. Is it classic? Is it? I don't know. But yeah, no, I will definitely give it a shot. And I will probably mod it because I do want to have really good graphics.
It looks incredible. Like I said, the graphics hold up. It really does.
Modders are amazing, by the way. If there's any modders who are listening right now, like, you guys are just, you blow my mind.
Yeah, for the benefit of gamers everywhere.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So, all right, Paul, do you have any complaints about Mass Effect 2 being the winner?
No. It definitely qualifies as a space game. I think Mass Effect 1 is a little bit more traditional because you can land on any planet that not every single planet, but a lot of planets you can land on, explore, find mats. Mass Effect 2, they go more of an action route, but it's the best one in the series. It matches the perfect story with the perfect combat. It has my all-time favorite video game character, Morden, who I've talked about 1,000 times. Yeah, Mass Effect 2 is the best space game.
It's not Colonel Sam Shepard or whatever. When I said that on the first show, the
Commander
Shepard people, I'm like, oh, Sam Shepard. Oh no, there's no
Colonel
Sam
Shepard.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sam
Shepard.
Right?
The colonels, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right?
Well, all I know is I can't wait for Starfield to come out later this year, which will hopefully take the title.
I would love nothing more.
I'm excited.
All right, well, congratulations once again to Mass Effect 2. I think they've won one or two other drafts along the way, but they deserve it. They're the heavy hitters. They're, I guess, the Meryl Streep of video games, just soaking up all these awards. All right. Any closing thoughts or comments on space games?
This was a hard category in the sense that there were so many games.
So broad.
Not to go to honorable mentions, but there's like a game called Rebel Galaxy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but you play as like a capital ship in that one. But it's an amazing game. Everspace. I don't know if apparently neither one of you guys have played Everspace, but Everspace is incredible and is the epitome of a space game and is absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful video games that I've seen. And they're making Everspace 2, which is going to be like a huge open world space RPG. Anyway, so it's like there's this infinite plethora of space games that are absolutely great in so many different ways. None of us picked like Stellaris. I'm not into 4X games, but Stellaris is, if you look at the ratings, is beloved by so many people. It's just not my thing. I don't have the patience for that.
You don't want to set like democratic governing policies and economic policies. I feel like it kind of gets
I don't want
in
to work
weeds.
in my video games. I don't want to work and do government stuff.
Well, and I don't think any of us brought up EVE Online.
Right, yeah, another one.
That's a big one, too, that like a lot of listeners are probably like, somebody say that, now the show's over. And it's like, I had to put that out there because like you bring up, there are so many games in the space. And my thought when we first picked this, I was like, oh, it's going to be like, TIE Fighter's going to be up there. It's going to be Elite Dangerous. It's going to be a couple of these games. And we're going to have a bunch of, slim pickings at the end. And then when you look at it, of the couple of shows that I've been on now, like this one clearly was the one that was most difficult picking between round 4 and round 1. When we actually went head to head, and it's like, this is a round 4 pick that might knock off a round 1 pick.
Right, exactly.
This is a great genre of games.
Yeah.
Great genre.
Good choice, whoever picked that.
I think Paul suggested it.
Stay tuned next month when we draft the best game set on Earth. That's like the only thing more broad than all space games. All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much to everyone out there for listening. As a reminder, please rate us 5 stars and leave us a review. And come join us on Discord. Come check it out. That's completely free. Link in the description. And our Patreon is available at multiplayersquad.com. And hey, if you want to shell out and be legendary status, pick any game you want us to play. We'll play it and we'll deep dive it. And
please do.
Yeah.
Please pick legendary and please pick Elite Dangerous so I don't have to do it because I'm probably going to have to do it.
All right. So thanks so much to everyone out there who already supports us on Patreon. We really do appreciate it. And then we will be back with a half-hour episode on Thursday talking about This Week in Gaming. So have a great week, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.